doing some nostalgia play. So we finally got all of the missing cords for our Nintendo Wii. And can you guess what game I'm playing? I'm not very good at it, but it was fun to play and a good little bit of increasing my heart rate. Not that I can even call it exercise, but a little bit to start. And it was tame enough to play while I had the baby napping on my chest. So it was a win-win. I got to do something and she got a good nap in. Hey everyone, so it's getting late, everyone's in bed, it's almost 11, but I'm gonna do a little bit of meal prep, or breakfast prep I guess. I'm just gonna be doing overnight oats and keeping it really simple. I got these glass jars at Walmart. They're the kinds that have bad reviews for canning. So I'm using them for overnight oats instead, so that I didn't have to pay full price for the Ball brand of jars. You know, that's just me being frugal. This is otherwise like a WIC friendly like recipe, I guess. Only because it's not really a recipe, but these items you can definitely get on WIC. Just because I had my daughter like 8 weeks ago, and my husband is going back to work like in 2 days, so I need something that I can just pop in the microwave and have a decent breakfast nutritionally while I have both the 8-week-old and the toddler. So let's make some overnight oats. I do want to note, this soy milk that I got, I definitely thought it said it was WIC approved. It was not, so I had to pay for it. But normally soy milk is WIC approved. Or you can use whatever milk you get on your WIC, whether you're still getting whole milk or low fat milk. Anyway, I'm gonna do bananas after. So this is the oatmeal that WIC now supports. It's the packets, but it's just the original, so none of the flavored packets. And this, for disclaimer, is as of July 2026. So I'm gonna just do 1 packet each and then save one of the packets like once it's empty, because that is how we are going to measure our milk. And if you don't want to use milk, you can definitely use water. Like you were trying to hold on to your milk for other purposes. We all need a break sometimes. Okay, so I'm just gonna do it to the fill line. If you've ever made instant oatmeal, you're familiar with this. I'm gonna do that for every single one of these, since they're each just 1 packet. Obviously, if you do 2 packets, do it twice. Or you can measure it in a measuring cup. It says it's 2/3 of a cup. I don't know if I really believe that, but you know, just make sure you have a good grip though, because obviously it's like floppy. And I prefer plant-based milks just because, I don't know, I was vegan for a long time. I really got into, honestly, cashew milk is the best. If you're like hung up on whole milk, cashew milk is probably the way to go as far as it being like rich and creamy. But there's some pretty good soy milks out there. Like this one is pretty yummy, but again, it was not actually WIC approved, but I do believe Silk brand is. I think it just has to be original and not vanilla. This one is vanilla. And that was an L for me. But even so, this little half gallon was, I think, $3 or $3.50 at Kroger. And I'm okay paying that. Because I usually, like, I don't eat cereal with milk a ton. So it goes pretty far for me. Like, I even worry sometimes that I'm even pushing it a little too long. Anyway, I'm gonna do bananas, which fruits and veggies are WIC approved. Last time I did some blueberries and strawberries with like a tablespoon of sugar. I mixed that first and then I did this. So technically the only thing on those would be the sugar wouldn't be WIC approved. But it really didn't take much, and you could just not add the sugar. I'm gonna make each banana go into like 3 of them because I only have 2 bananas left. And for those of you who don't know, WIC it stands for Women's, Infants, and Children in the United States. It is a nutritional supplement program for pregnant women, breastfeeding moms, and children under 5 years old. It is a wonderful program. Sometimes, like in our county specifically, we live in a poorer county, so it's not always, like there's not always someone working in the office if you have questions, but they do have a lot of their resources online now. And instead of using WIC checks, which if you know, you know, they have like a debit card instead now. So it's a lot more accessible, especially like if you are having like postpartum anxiety, or you know, when you're not feeling well and you still have to go get groceries. Like the WIC checks were such a headache where you would have to do like separate transactions for everything that was WIC related so that they could run the checks. But since most retailers don't do checks anymore, they switched to the little debit card, so you can totally avoid interactions. You can use it as self-checkout, and it's a huge blessing. There's like an app where you can check your benefits. Yeah, anyway. Clean up a little bit. And then I'm just gonna give these a little stir. I'm gonna try not to get it like up the side too much, so that, please excuse the oven. I'm also in the middle of making another video for the more cooking oriented channel, which is Calm with Claire, if you're interested. Anyway, like I said, trying not to go too far up the sides so that all of the oats can soak. I am gonna warm them up, but a lot of people like overnight oats cold. I have yet to meet one of those people, but they're out there. Especially because I think using the oat packets like this makes them a little more soupy. I usually like thicker oatmeal, but I think when it's warm it's kind of nice and like porridge-esque. So it's kind of, I don't know, comforting. And then that's it. That's 6 partial breakfasts, or 6 whole breakfasts if you're in a pinch or you don't feel very hungry, or if one packet is usually a normal breakfast for you, that's cool too. But just put the lids on, and then when I want one, I take the lid off, I microwave it for a minute, and then bam, oatmeal, without having to do all the measuring while trying to hold a baby. You know, just have to take a lid off, throw it in the microwave, and then I can eat something hot. So there's that. Okay, so something else that I'm going to prep is this, which doesn't look like anything fabulous, but this is sourdough discard, and I'm going to make like a cracker crust for it, like make it into a flatbread crust. Really all I'm going to do is mix in some olive oil and seasonings, and I will be making a couple little flatbreads tomorrow for some friends we're having over. This, I think, is probably the easiest way to use sourdough discard, and without adding a ton of other ingredients. I've even made it without adding oil. It's just not as texturally diverse, I guess, but I always season it. But you know, there's tons of recipes for sourdough discard: cookies, cinnamon rolls, bagels, etc. But I'm kind of lazy for all that, and if I just need to get rid of sourdough discard, which this is substantial, it's like 2.5 cups worth, then I just go this route and I make a flatbread and kind of just throw whatever on it. Sometimes we do pepperoni pizza, sometimes I make taco pizza, hamburger pizza, sometimes it's not cheese sauce, it's bean sauce. The world is your sourdough oyster. So I'm just gonna season this and then put it back in the fridge so it can kind of pick up more of the seasoning because they're dried seasonings. And then tomorrow I'll bake it off and put the toppings on and all that. But you would normally just lay it out on a cookie sheet with parchment paper, and anywhere from like 325 to 375 in the oven. Give it like 20 to 30 minutes by itself, and then once it is no longer tacky and starting to like firm up on the edges is when you want to add your toppings, and then hit it for another 20 or so minutes, depending on like how wet your toppings are and what temperature you have the oven at. So I'm gonna do that. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna do olive oil. Usually it's about a tablespoon per cup for making like a cracker crust or for making crackers themselves. I'm just gonna eyeballing it. That's probably more like a 1/4 cup. And then I'm just gonna do paprika and Italian herbs. I'm gonna avoid any garlic or salt right now because I'm gonna let it sit overnight. And garlic and salt start to do things to the yeast, because there is still, you know, the sourdough's natural yeast in discard, but I just don't want to risk it throwing it off and making it inedible, just because I don't usually let it sit overnight. I kind of honestly just do this on the fly. I'll pull the discard out of the fridge, or I'll even just, when I'm feeding my sourdough, I'll just immediately separate it into a bowl and season it then and leave it at room temperature. But this is just while I'm waiting for something else in the oven, so I figured I could get one step ahead so that when we have company and my small needy children, this will be one less thing that I have to think about preparing. You just bake it off and then throw the toppings on, and then we're done. And this is an offset spatula. If you decorate cakes or anything, you probably have one, but it is a dream for spreading things like this on a cookie sheet. There we go. Back into the fridge it goes until tomorrow pizza it becomes. Alright, so I've been doing a little bit of baking and meal prepping tonight. It's almost midnight now, but everyone's asleep, so it was easy to get some stuff done. This is going to now be closing time, essentially doing the dishes, cleaning up the counters. I already ran the bottle sterilizer, so just cleaning up the dishes that I made and then I would probably pump, and then I will maybe have a little snack, and then finally go to bed. So this is now going to be the sped up doing dishes and music montage. I hope you enjoy.